Hello, I'm Courtney Holland. Welcome to Save Our Towns, a series designed to guide and inspire those who are working hard in Appalachia to build strong communities. The episodes created by Outreach and International Affairs at Virginia Tech celebrate what is great about small towns and connect you with experts, resources, and more. In this episode, you'll learn about a town's astounding recovery from a tragic flood. Then you'll hear the latest from Marion, Virginia, the town we're following for a year, followed by Small Town Big Number, which draws on the expertise of authors Deborah and James Fallows. Your expert tip focuses on alliances, and as always, we close with 3 questions for a mayor. First, your example of awesome story. Andrea Brunet, reporting from West Virginia, shows how city leaders played a key role after a devastating flood.
White Sulphur Springs was hit hard by the deadly 2016 flooding in West Virginia. More than 24 people were killed across the state. In a span of hours, the city of about 2,500 people became like a war zone. Some 75 homes were destroyed and 100 more damaged, and 3 members of a single family died. They were among 5 people who didn't survive the flood who lived on Mill Hill Drive, around the corner from City Hall. Mark Trent, an award-winning photographer and cinematographer, had just moved back to the area from New York City. He arrived literally on the day of the flood.
I'd left to go get the last bit of my belongings to bring back home. And then we started seeing the images that we're seeing on the news of the house floating down the river. We were dumbfounded. I was just helping clean out basements, and I just went down and volunteered for a while and tried to run supplies. It was pretty chaotic here right after, and no one really knew what was going on, and there was a lot of tension with who needed what.
Though people who lived downtown were made homeless, and some city workers lost everything, one place didn't shut down: City Hall. Lloyd Haynes, now the city manager, was mayor at the time.
Many of our citizens that worked for the city had difficulty, and many of them still came into City Hall and worked in the field and cleared the streets and things of that nature. And they showed extreme dedication by coming in and doing those things. And even though they had their own individual problems, we kept City Hall open.
No way a cleanup of this sort could be undertaken without coordination from the city. Residents wanted to get back to normal on their own, but the sheer magnitude of the disaster pushed the boundaries of what even the most self-sufficient individuals could manage.
The hard part was, I think, was people didn't want to ask for help. That's like the continuous story that I remember the most from the flood, is even people picking up their belongings and donating it to people that needed help. Or if you wanted to help somebody, they're like, I don't need help, my neighbor needs help. And they would have it worse than their neighbor. You know, it was a lot of that sort of West Virginian spirit of, no, I'm good, help the neighbor.
At first, town leaders were unsure exactly what to do. They had no blueprint for disaster, but they knew they must move fast because some home sites would never be buildable again. They also needed to find ways to work quickly with FEMA, Greenbrier County officials, and the many other private parties who also wanted to help. Almost by coincidence, the city owned 160 acres of high and dry land, which it had gained in a trade in the 80s.
We knew that some housing was going to have to be provided for people that were affected in the flood. And so we had to jumpstart things and get things going quickly. And the council, we met together, and they approved the move that we had intended to make Hope Village a reality.
Hope Village is a new enclave constructed on the high land where more than 40 families now live. The city gave people the land, allowing them to trade in their destroyed downtown lots. Mennonite and Amish groups supplied labor, and a local philanthropist helped gather donors to underwrite much of the building effort.
Anyone that lost their home could have one again. For me, that was amazing. I mean, imagine losing everything you owned, all your possessions, and then having this opportunity to start again in a new place. Not only was it a brand new build, but it was also out of the flood range.
Helping downtown businesses with their massive cleanup was also a goal of the mayor's. And everything involved paperwork from government entities who weren't accustomed to moving at a pace of urgency.
It's very unusual to get the county and the FEMA and get the government all together to expedite things quickly, because as we know, the government usually moves rather slowly.
2 years after the flood, new businesses have opened up in the city with more expected. 11 properties downtown have recently been bought by people who plan to open businesses. Plus, the city's own budget is in good shape. Delegations of city leaders from all across the country have traveled here to learn. White Sulphur Springs is considered a model for how to recover after a disaster. White Sulphur Springs hasn't fully bounced back, but taxpayer-funded relief dollars went a long way toward rebuilding, as did the generosity of many donors and volunteers. What tied it all together was practical and spirited leadership from the city.
So we had to coordinate all those entities that came in and keep things going in the right direction so that we wouldn't have chaos. We had to learn as we went and had to be a little bit fast on our feet in order to keep things going in the right direction. A lot of prayers were going on in the city.
Now we turn to Marion, where Diane Deffenbaugh reports on how a new population is sparking changes.
After Smith County Community Hospital moved out of its old building, Emory and Henry University's School of Health Science moved in, bringing changes to the town of Marion, Virginia. Economic Development Director Ken Heath says there's more energy in town, but the move has also brought challenges.
A new population of 200, 300 college students and faculty out there, so you got 400 and some people here.
That growing population is transforming the town.
Development continues to be an issue with us. We've seen in the past year 55 apartments created in the downtown. Most of those are filled by Emory and Henry students, and they're filling up, and we're looking at the first major subdivision developed in Marion since probably the 70s, out next to the Emory and Henry campus.
That subdivision is part of a $50 million project on 95 acres of open land that has long been targeted for development.
We partnered with the landowners at the time to put the road in with the anticipation there'd be a subdivision, and it stalled, and it just never happened. We got, talking about the road to nowhere. Now, years later, local guys have gotten together and said, yeah, we want to make this happen.
Plans call for a housing and commercial complex that would include a coffee shop, gym, and restaurants, as well as housing. Meanwhile, town leaders are supporting its success.
And the biggest resource we have is to cut red tape and move out of the way and let the developers work. That works really well for us.
Next, small town, big number. Today's number is only a fraction of what you need to make your town successful.
You may have heard of the book Our Towns by Deborah and James Fallows. The authors flew around America in a single-engine prop plane. During their 5-year expedition, they discovered downtowns that had been reinvented and old mills and factories that had been repurposed. They came up with a scale they call 10.5 signs of civic success. Let's take a look at 3.5 of those signs. First, successful towns make themselves open, diverse, and welcoming. The authors cite cities as different as Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Burlington, Vermont. These cities have, quote, gone to extraordinary lengths to assimilate refugees from recent wars, the authors write. We can find an example of this close to home, Harrisonburg, Virginia. For the full story on Harrisonburg's outreach to immigrants, watch episode 8 of season 3 of Save Our Towns. Second, a spiffy downtown makes people want to visit. The authors say that most of the cities they visited were pouring attention, resources, and creativity into their downtowns. Again, our region in Virginia turns up some prime examples. From past Save Our Towns episodes, consider rewatching episode 8 of season 1. It featured Buchanan, with its reputation for antique stores, which the town strongly promoted. Or take another look at episode 6 of season 3, which examined how Lexington took a chance by investing in a downtown hotel. Third, according to the Fallowses, people in successful towns know their civic story. They know where their town came from and what sets it apart. Think of Jonesboro, Tennessee, profiled in episode 5 of season 4. The genesis of Jonesboro's fame is storytelling and, in particular, how a high school teacher helped preserve this Appalachian art. and everyone in town can proudly tell you the details. So what's the half tacked on at the end of the Fallows' list of 10.5 signs? It's a tongue-in-cheek measure, the presence of craft breweries. The authors write that a city on the way back will have one or more craft breweries, and probably some small distilleries too. We'll raise a glass to that. To recap, 1. Openness and diversity can help your town grow. 2. An attractive downtown can exude charm and attract shoppers from around the region. And 3. Every town has a history and things to be proud of. Have you internalized your story? If so, you won't need 2 big city authors parachuting in to know you've achieved success.
Now for your expert tip. Jerry Moles is a founding member of the Blue Ridge Plateau Initiative. He stresses how vital it is for town leaders to work with regional groups to make big things happen.
By coordinating from towns to rural areas and figuring out ways to work together, a whole bunch of things become possible, not possible otherwise. So it's not that they are separate from us, and it would help if they would quit thinking that they're separate from us, because we're all in this together.
You can read a transcript of the complete interview at the Save Our Towns website, where you'll learn more about land care initiatives here and in Australia. And now a reminder about Virginia Cooperative Extension. Extension agents and specialists live and work around the Commonwealth, dedicated to subjects such as land management, livestock quality, and community leadership.
On the Save Our Towns website, click on the Extension tab. There you can learn much more. You'll find extension agents listed along with their areas of expertise and contact information.
Now it's back to White Sulphur Springs for 3 questions for Mayor.
Bruce Bowling, Mayor, City of White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. It's a resort town. Right now it's Main Street, getting everything into a kind of a centralized theme, and we're working on that right now. Mainly dealing with recreation. We have vast amounts of outdoor recreation activities, fishing, hunting, hiking, biking, camping. It's all right here. Trying to get everybody on the same page, everybody working together for a common goal, which is to promote our recreational activities. Our best attribute is our friendliness of our people. You know, we have the Greenbrier Resort close by, and we have 3 or 4 generations of hospitality folks, and they kind of carry it not only at work, but while they're on the streets and in the town as well.
Would you like to nominate your town for an Examples of Awesome story? We'd love to hear from you. To view past episodes and to dive deeper into resources and a wealth of information about small towns, go to the Save Our Towns website. And please send your thoughts to saveourtowns@vt.edu. We read and respond to every email. This is episode 5 of season 5. Thanks for watching.